So I'm doing this case study for the singer Billie Eilish. She's become very popular now as a great singer, and she's a very young lady. You can see she was born December 18th, 2001. So I'm actually recording this, or I'm actually releasing this on her birthday. I didn't even know it was her birthday when I decided to do this. Go to 2024 VedicAstrology.com to download the 11 most important shifts in 2024. Don't be blindsided by the upcoming eclipses, retrogrades. You can get the free forecast, which is both the PDF download as well as the free video report. And again, this free report will allow you to discover important shifts for your sign, how to align with higher wisdom and purpose and hope in 2024 as Jupiter shifts and moves into Taurus. Also, different placements such as exalted Mars at the beginning of the year, debilitated Mars at the end of the year, the big 1-2 punch at the beginning of this year, when and how communication problems will be occurring throughout the year with the Mercury retrograde cycles, all kinds of other things that you want to understand. This is a free PDF download and then also a free web class. So go ahead, go to 2024VedicAstrology.com and download that now. So she was recently on the Saturday Night Live program, and she sang Christmas song, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. And it was very touching for a young girl, young woman, I should say. You know, she's turning 22 today, and I've seen her on interviews before and different things, and she's always really carried herself like she's much older, like an old soul, with a lot of wisdom. Even though she's a young, pretty girl, she doesn't, like, for example, she doesn't flaunt her sexuality. She doesn't dress that way. I'm not being critical of young women who do or anything. I'm just saying she's very down to earth, even though she's got very extravagant hair colors and things like that in her speaking manner and in her approach. You can tell she's a very old soul. And I was like, oh, I wonder what her chart looks like. I wonder if we have a good birth time, and we do. So you see this 12/18/2001 at 11:30 a.m. in LA, Los Angeles. We have an Aquarius ascendant. You could see she has a very Aquarius type of appearance, in the classical sense of, like, you know, unusual, out there kind of amorphous appearance. This is very related to Aquarius because their own personal identity is somewhat in flux. Like they're inherently sort of humble, so they project a lot of extravagant identities, because Leo, which is that strong identity in them, is kind of unintegrated. This is the thing about Aquarius. So anyway, and you see she has Mars in the first house, again, which you would think would make someone quite aggressive. Now, I've seen her. She's obviously got a lot of courage and a lot of, passion. So you could see that Mars in the first, it's in Aquarius, though, where his energy is subdued, because again, it's not a very strong sign for Mars, because it's ruled by Saturn, right? So the fighting spirit gets kind of subdued. But a few things are really amazing and very interesting tells here. First, her ruling planet Saturn is in Taurus. Again, this is a massive Raja Yoga. By the way, so is this. Mars is the 10th lord in the first. Again, massive Raja Yoga. Saturn, her ruling planet, the first lord in the fourth, right? And it's in the sign of Taurus, again, which is very much about being creative, creativity, and also quite feminine, right? Down to earth, those kinds of things. So you can see that. Venus in the 10th house, she's a famous musician, so a creative career. And she's also known for her beauty. And again, what I said is she doesn't flaunt it, like she doesn't show a lot of skin and all that kind of stuff. In fact, she wears quite baggy clothes, and her style is again, she's naturally very pretty, and even, quite beautiful, like her physical, like her face and whatnot. But again, she's not sexualized, at least not that I've seen. It's mostly sort of sort of quirky, and it just looks very much like, okay, this is the way I look, and she has fun with it. It seems like she's having fun with it. But the music is really important. You can tell, because her songs are really quite good. And again, they're quite traditional as well, as far as, there's some modern production on a lot of it, but she's a musician. She could sit down and play, like numerous instruments. She writes with her brother, Phineas. So her brother is very instrumental in her life, as a musical partner, as her best friend, and all like that. You can see Mars. And Mars is also the third lord. So Mars, the Karaka of siblings, in the first, forming a Raj Yoga, and it's the third lord also in the first. So again, very prominent when Mars is in the first. This relationship maybe to literally siblings, but at least that kind of dynamic. And I've seen video, I don't remember what it was, but it was sort of like a behind the scenes of those two writing music and just sort of playing, and they're just kind of like barking at each other, like, oh, come on, and then it means nothing. They're just very very open and very Mars with each other. But a few other very interesting things. Of course, we have this Venus in the 10th house. This is also massive Raja Yoga, 9th lord in the 10th, aspecting Saturn, her ruling planet. But here's a few other very cool things. Of course, she's got Rahu in the 5th house. 5th house is creativity, expressing myself, self-expression. It's with Jupiter, right? Jupiter's also aspecting the ascendant. So again, Jupiter in the 5th house as well. And Jupiter is the 2nd house ruler, which is the voice, in the 5th house, self-expression. And Rahu, very unusual kind of voice. And Rahu is obsessed, and it's very accelerated. Now here's one of the reasons why it's also very accelerated. If you didn't notice, she was born right on, she was born on Chaturthi, which is the 4th lunar day, Shukla Chaturthi, which is the waxing 4th Tithi, and it's right after the solar eclipse in Mula. Ooh, we got a celestial being here, right? Right on the galactic plane, this eclipse, right on the galactic plane. On December 18th, 2001, we had this eclipse. I guess it would have been on it would have been like the 14th, because it would have been 4 days. This is Chaturthi, when the moon would have joined Sun and Ketu here at 3 degrees of, or it would have been, no, actually it would have been the very end of Scorpio. It would have been in this Gandanta. If we roll this back to when the eclipse happened, I'm just subtracting 4 degrees from this moon, because it's the 4th Tithi, and the sun rules, or the sun moves 1 degree every day. So this eclipse would have been at like 29 Scorpio, so it would have been on the Gandanta. That's when the eclipse would have happened, when the sun was in Jeshta. But she was born when the sun was right on Ketu, the south node, in Mula Nakshatra. It's in the 11th house. The 11th house is the public. This is the powerful karma of Ketu, with giving these massive skills with the public. I just watched, just real quick, a quick video of, because I didn't really know anything about her history so much. What she won the Grammy in 2020 at just 18 years old. She won like 4 Grammys. One was for the best, song of the year. 18, and you would think she'd like be all nervous. She gets up there and she was like, "Wow, thanks." 18 years old, right? In the public, the world watching her, she was like a pro. This is Ketu, like she's been there and done that before. She knows about being in the public and having this attention on her. And again, it's Sagittarius, so it's this very inspired and inspiring sort of opportunity. You could tell that again, she's sort of like an old soul. She really understands her obligation, or her role, and being like a role model and things like that. She said, and she's also very straight arrow. She doesn't drink or smoke or anything like that. She's stated that she's never used drugs or smoked or anything like that in 2019. And you can just tell she's a very quality, just really nice young lady. Very grounded, practical, intelligent, down-to-earth, creative. That something else you can see. We have this Mercury Mercury is combust. It's behind the sun, right? Very strong Mercury here. Combust about 7 degrees. So again, this gives that focus of Mercury. Mercury is behind the sun, right? It's 3 degrees from the sun, almost 4 degrees. I'm sorry, not 4. 10 degrees. Oh, come on, Sam, one more time. 8 degrees. I'm going to get it right, because the sun is at 3 and Mercury's almost at 11. So 8 degrees behind the sun. So again, the sun is pushing that Mercury energy out. Mercury is that fifth lord. So very interesting chart here. Eclipse girl. And again, Mula is right on the galactic plane, because Mula and Ardra run at 6 degrees of Sagittarius and Gemini. So she was born when the sun was crossing over the galactic plane, right? And that's when she was born. The sun was 3 days from crossing the plane of the galaxy, and Ketu was there. So again, this is a very powerful section of the zodiac, and particularly with Ketu as being the actuating and the ruling dasha planet related to Mula Nakshatra and Sun in Mula and Sagittarius. Very powerful here. And so we can see when she won the Grammy, you can look, she was in Rahu Saturn, at the very end of Rahu Saturn. So Rahu Saturn is when she really started her career, was in Rahu Saturn. Again, Saturn, just look at the rulerships. Rahu is the fifth lord, or I'm sorry, it's in the fifth house with Jupiter, and Jupiter is in Ardra. So Rahu is ruling Jupiter's nakshatra, and it's also ruling Mars, ruling this Raja Yoga Mars in the first Shatabishak. So this Rahu Dasha is very powerful. But as Rahu Saturn, when her career started, she was only 16. By the time she hit at the end, because the Grammys I looked was in January of 2020. Right at the end of Rahu Saturn is when she won all those Grammys. Again, massive Raja Yogas. Rahu Saturn now, both Raja Yogas with this Mars, because Rahu rules the nakshatra and Saturn rules the Rashi of Mars, 10th Lord. So the 10th Lord is getting activated by both nakshatra and Rashi Lord here. And of course, Saturn also rules the ascendant, so it's her. And as I said, Saturn is a massive Raja Yoga for her, because it's the first Lord and the fourth. By the way, she even says now, I believe she still lives with her parents or whatever, but her and her brother write music in her bedroom. That's what she said in her Grammy acceptance speech. I think they all still live at home. If not, maybe she has moved out or something like that at this point. But her and her brother, again, fourth house is like your home or in your bedroom or something like that. So that's Saturn, her first house ruler, this massive yoga where she goes off into her room and writes this amazing music. Again, you see the aspect of Venus in the 10th house, the 9th Lord in the 10th. These Dharma planets just lit up. And this freak of existence is incarnated because she's an anomaly. This is what you can see with these people born near eclipses, right? She's born right near this eclipse, and she comes out and eclipses everybody, right? 18 years old, wins all these Grammys, and I just looked at the award, the acceptance. It was Smokey Robinson who introduced her. Smokey Robinson from The Miracles. It was he said her name wrong. Billie English, I think he said. People were correcting Eilish. Never really even knew who she was, because she was so new. And I'm looking at the thing here. It says she began to get a following in 2016 when she released a single called Ocean Eyes on SoundCloud. 2016, she would have been in Rahu Jupiter. So that's when she started to get a following. Again, 16, in 2016, she would have been 15 at that time, right? Amazing. And she was in Rahu Jupiter, but man, those karmas come when they come, right? And then by the time of Rahu Saturn, she won Grammys. So pretty amazing story here. And again, Moon in Shravana in the 12th house. This is also going off by herself, 12th house. And working hard. Moon is the 6th house ruler. Important planet for Aquarius. It's the 6th lord in the 12th. It can be a hard planet for Aquarius because it rules the sixth house of effort and struggle. And it shows where Aquarians can have a hard time not being kind of depressed or sad because the moon rules the sixth house of effort and struggle. And she has said that, Eilish has stated that she has Tourette's syndrome, synesthesia, and has experienced depression. She was raised vegetarian and regularly advocates for veganism on social media. So, a strong vegan advocate, strong humanitarian. This Viprit Raj Yoga, the sixth lord in the 12th, helps her overcome her depression. I don't like to say things like Aquarians are prone to depression because I don't like to stigmatize that or use that word, but that is an accurate way to say it. And I say prone to depression, just prone to feeling emotionally heavy because because the moon rules the sixth house. So here it goes into the 12th house where she goes off by herself, gets liberated from the difficult effects of the sixth house stigma by going off on her own and writing. So Billie Eilish has a beautiful voice. Beautiful voice. I love female voices, particularly when they're not over stylized, where it's not overly dramatic and overly stylized. Now a lot of female singers, male singers too, all singers, they overdo it. It's just the style of singing now. She does a little bit, but she's mostly she just sings very clearly, usually a pretty soft voice, quite feminine, but you could tell she's also a tiger. She's got a lot of courage with that Mars in the first house. But again, we have aspects here. Mars is aspecting Saturn. They're having a mutual aspect, mutual one-way aspect. Mars aspects the fourth house in front. Saturn aspects the 10th house in front. So it's not only that that Mars is in Saturn's sign, but it's getting the aspect, the Graha Drishti, the special aspect from Saturn onto Mars. So again, this is a powerhouse, man. This whole chart is just, this is what you see when someone is like, she's got a long road ahead of her in a good way. I mean, because this chart is so full of like all this integrity is just locked in. That's why I wanted to look, because I was so impressed with her from the very beginning. You can tell she has this old soul. Even though she's very young, she's not some giggly, silly girl, but she's very humble and very real. And that's what Saturn-ruled people are. And she's got, the Aquarius ascendant and the moon in Capricorn. So she knows what it is. She has empathy and compassion. This is what Saturn really brings us. People that are ruled by Saturn or who have prominent Saturn. We feel the suffering of others. So she's already vegan and very sensitive to suffering of animals and things like that because she has her struggles. But boy, what a way to transform it. I looked at this and just saw so many great things that are unusual. Sun Ketu exact, right on Mula on that galactic plane. She has a very spiritual chart. I think she'll eventually, she's in Rahu Dasha, she's still quite young, but you never know. I mean, she's about to go into, she just started Rahu Venus, and Venus is the 9th lord in the 10th. And she just started it. So I wouldn't be surprised if her music takes some very spiritual turns. 9th lord, she's got incredibly spiritual, and I mean authentically spiritual. Not just like, I'm dialed into, I have tolerance for everyone's beliefs or something. I mean authentically spiritual, like meditation, Indian, dharmic teachings of some sort. I wouldn't be surprised if her music takes that sort of turn and her life takes that sort of turn in Rahu Venus. So anyway, amazing young lady, and it's her birthday, so Billie Eilish, I'm a fan. I like you. Happy birthday. Go to 2024vedicastrology.com to download the 11 most important shifts in 2024. Don't be blindsided by the upcoming eclipses, retrogrades. You can get the free forecast, which is both the PDF download as well as the free video report. And again, this free report will allow you to discover important shifts for your sign, how to align with higher wisdom and purpose and hope in 2024 as Jupiter shifts and moves into Taurus. Also, different placements such as exalted Mars at the beginning of the year, debilitated Mars at the end of the year, the big 1-2 punch at the beginning of this year, when and how communication problems will be occurring throughout the year with the Mercury retrograde cycles, all kinds of other things that you want to understand. This is a free PDF download and then also a free web class. So go ahead, go to 2024vedicastrology.com and download that now. For a limited time, I'm offering 10 hours of masterclasses, Yoga and Vedic Astrology, Quantum Vedic Astrology, and Spiritual Astrology Masterclass. These are 3 great courses that will really help you a lot. Now, in case you don't know who I am, I taught the AstroVed certification course, Dattatreya Shiva Baba, in 2010. Ravi Shankar published my book in 2018. I've been around for decades. I've been teaching these great classes, and if you go to VedicAstrologyEssentials.com, you can get this 90% off discount of these 3 great classes, more than 10 hours, guaranteed value. You can check this out. These 3 classes will give you all the necessary tools to begin to learn Vedic astrology. Please find me on YouTube at Sam Jeppy, Vedic Astrology Teacher. On there since 2007, thousands of hours of classes. Also on Facebook at Astrology Teacher, tons of articles updated regularly. And I'm on Instagram at Vedic Astrology 108, ongoing updates and interaction.